Magnificent Museums by Surya Kumari Dennison. The City Museum has finally reopened, announced father, looking up from his newspaper. Now, we can take Rohit and Reena there. Mother nodded. Yes, let's do that as soon as possible. How about next Saturday? Aren't you excited, children? Rohit and Reena didn't look excited at all.
What is a museum?
Asked Reena.
I would much rather go to a wildlife sanctuary. Are there animals in a museum? A museum is a place where they hoard a lot of junk that nobody wants anymore. Rather like a garage sale. Except that, as far as I know, you can't buy anything. Am I right, Daddy?
Asked Rohit. Not quite, said father, exchanging an amused glance with his wife. Museums are certainly full of old things, but they are priceless antiquities. Many of them date as far back as thousands of years.
Now that sounds interesting,
admitted Reena.
How do museums get hold of such stuff?
Good question, said mother. You have heard of archaeologists, haven't you? Well, they travel to various sites where great civilizations like the Indus Valley once existed. Delving deep into the ground, they come across the remains of ancient houses as well as earthenware utensils and crude implements that were in use in distant days.
If these items are so valuable, why don't the people who unearthed them just keep them?
Asked Rohit. Father laughed. I'm afraid it is not a matter of finders keepers, he said. Objects recovered at digs, as these areas are called, become the property of the government of the country. After they are brought to the surface, they are carefully cleaned and labeled and then sent to museums.
What else can we see in a museum?
Said Reena. There is plenty to see, said mother. I remember a school trip to Hampi. At the museum there, I was struck by the coins belonging to the reign of Emperor Krishna Deva Raya. There were also weapons and suits of armor, besides statues and figurines of deities. The museum in Hampi is relatively small and confined to the Vijayanagara Empire. Larger museums showcase a variety of objects, paintings, sculptures, rare manuscripts, to name just a few. Believe it or not, there are about 55,000 museums in over 200 countries of the world. Some of them have distinctive displays, said father. For instance, Madame Tussauds, a major tourist attraction in London, specializes in wax effigies of famous people. The Louvre in Paris is renowned for its works of art. Closer home, the National Rail Museum in New Delhi depicts the histories of the railways in India. As for the museum in our city, it has mannequins dressed in traditional costumes. How does that sound, Reena?
It sounds wonderful, Daddy,
said Reena.
May I please bring my friends along on this outing? We can have a picnic.
Picnic is not quite the word I would use, said mother, smiling. You, Rohit, and your friends will have to be very quiet. You must file past the exhibits, stopping to read the information provided about each. No talking loudly, much less touching anything on view. I think both of you will also like the little replicas of automobiles that were gifted to our local museum by someone who actually crafted those miniature models.
Wow, how generous of him to give them away,
exclaimed Rohit. Yes, agreed mother. Indeed, many museums have come into being because an incredible individual was ready to part with his or her prized possessions. I recently heard about the Kelkar Museum in Pune. It houses silver and gold ornaments and an amazing assortment of musical instruments. They were once owned by Dr. Dinkar Gangadhar Kelkar, who donated them to the government of Maharashtra in 1975. If that seems far back in time, continued father, here's something that will really surprise you. The oldest known museum was founded 2,500 years ago. During the course of his excavations in Mesopotamia, Modern-day Iraq. Sir Charles Leonard Woolley, a prominent archaeologist of the early 20th century, discovered a museum. Research revealed that it was the project of the daughter of a king. Long before museums came to be established in the 15th century, this pioneer princess gave the public access to her personal collection of artifacts. She knew, as generations since have realized, that a visit to a museum is as entertaining as it is educational.
Let's go to the museum this weekend, Daddy,
said Rohit and Reena excitedly.